The time has come for the Cobra to rise up and reveal himself.
So, now here we have two graphs. To understand how appreciation and depreciation and relative value works, we actually need two graphs for this. And we have our basic supply and demand graph for the quantity of each currency in question. So let's say we have two nations. We have America and we have Germany. So US currency and German currency, which is the euro. Gone are the days of the Deutschmark and the miracle of the Rittenmark. And now we have the euro in Germany as well as many other Eurozone nations. Interesting thing about the EU is the political union. The Eurozone is the economic and monetary union, the nations that share the same currency for the euro. So EU and EMU have two different entities technically two different entities. Political union and then economic union. So let's say you have to have two countries because ultimately it is exchange. So let's say someone in America wants to go to Germany, they're in Germany, and they want to go buy something. And we're going to talk about the many different reasons that you might need another nation's currency. And so let's say someone in America wants to buy something in Germany. Maybe it's the People's Car, the Volkswagen, break down that word. And so let's say, whichever it is, we're going to go through that list of it. But we need one nation to initiate, as it really is what it comes down to, is an exchange. You want to go to Germany and buy something, so you need to supply American dollars. And you put those dollars essentially on in the foreign exchange market. That's why it's called a market. And in return for those dollars, you now have, where's all of our coins? You now have lots of different euros. And now you can use those euros, because you can't use American currency. I mean, technically, some places will probably take it, but you cannot use American currency to buy things that are not in America. So you have to literally exchange, you have to supply American currency, and then from that foreign exchange market, now in exchange for euros, and now you could buy something with euros. So what happens is, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. One, what is the question asking? Where is the exchange taking place? Because they're only going to have you draw one graph. But even though the test is only going to have you draw one graph, two things are actually happening simultaneously. One is the supply. So supply is the ability and willingness to offer a currency. So it is the ability and willingness to want to offer, let's say, exchange the currency. So in this case, people in America want to buy something from Germany. So in order to do that, we first have to supply American dollars. So we would shift the supply of dollars to the right. And as we supply American dollars, so we're increasing, literally saying, I want to buy something from Germany, so I have to supply, in order to get the euros, I have to supply American dollars. Or if we want to go up north to Canada, we have to supply American dollars. And as we supply American dollars, we see here, well, that's way off. We see here that as we supply American dollars, this is depreciating the value of the currency in terms of euro per US dollar exchange rate. So if we take a look graphically, it is other currency per currency in question. So currency Y per currency X. And on the bottom we have quantity of currency X. Whichever currency we're talking about, you have the quantity of that currency, and then since we're talking about relative value, we have to say other currency per currency in question exchange rate. And you notice also very importantly, the letter E for exchange rate. And so the act of supplying our currency by putting more of our currency on the market, by saturating the market with our currency, now this is going to depreciate the value of the American dollar. So we see the exchange rate depreciates. The euro per US dollar goes down in value. It's now easier, will be easier for people in Europe to buy more American dollars after this exchange. After the exchange takes place, the dollar is depreciated. So what are we doing with that dollar? We are demanding euros. We want to exchange that dollar for euros. Kids are sleeping, so I don't want to drop the coins too loud. And so demand, we are literally increasing the demand for euros. But now we are demanding euros. So now we're kind of switching countries here. So that's the tricky thing. Again, you're only going to have to draw one graph, but two graphs are happening at the same time. The first graph is initiating the exchange. And this graph is where the exchange is occurring. So, as we increase our demand for their currency, we are going to appreciate their currency. We are demanding their currency, so therefore we are willing and able to pay more for their currency. And as you can see here, we're also increasing the quantity supplied of their currency because they have to supply their currency to us as we demand it. So, but as we are willing to pay more for their currency, this is now going to appreciate their currency. Their currency is now going to appreciate in value relative to our own currency. So, supply and demand, just like with buying a product, we are exchanging. It is a market for currencies. To do something in another country, whether it's buy their products, put money in their banking system, we need their currency to do it. To get their currency, we must supply our own currency. Or, inversely, if we don't want to touch their currency, we would decrease the supply of ours. If we're like, no, that's good, we don't want to put our money into your country, there would be less money on the market, and that would be a decrease of our supply. We'd be taking our currency back. And now, let's take a look at, technically, we could just kind of go in a circle. So now our currency is depreciated in terms of their appreciated currency. So that means they can now buy more, one of their dollars can now buy more of our currency. So technically, if they really wanted to, they could say, you know what, the American dollar is depreciated against the euro. That means if they come across the pond to the States, they can now buy more 1 euro can now buy more American dollars. But to do that, they would have to supply their currency in demand for ours. And then the currencies would switch. Theirs would be depreciated as they supply their currency, and then ours would appreciate. This is why it's called a floating currency. This is constantly happening. And as when we take a look at the balance of accounts in our next lesson, all of the different ways in which currencies go back and forth between countries, this is why currencies, yeah, they go up and down a little here and there from day to day, but nothing drastic. Like the dollar is not worth 2 euros one day, and then it's the total reverse the next day. There's millions of currencies going back and forth all of the time, and this actually keeps both currencies stable within each other, or in relative nature to each other. And then the reverse will happen again. So now let's take a look at, well, what causes one nation to want to supply their currency for another nation's currency. So we're going to take a look now at what could increase the demand for another nation's currency.